Well, to me, I know we got some guys that have some playing experience, but I think we're still really in the development phase right now. I think that the important part is, we're having a little success at practice, but the reality is we have a lot of work to do from a developmental standpoint, right? And we're going to dissect the whole process with these guys. And it starts with eye development, understanding the run game, understanding the blocking schemes, and just being really detailed. I think the key to the position is being a detailed, oriented player based upon pass protection, understanding front structure and where your eyes and where the ball's supposed to insert. It's a lot of teaching, you know what I mean? It's a lot of information that they got to process. So we're still in the development phase, but overall as a group, I think we're pretty good right now with our progression.
Can you tell that this is like you're the third different running back coach they've had in 3 years? Can you tell that? Can you tell that they've had a lot of different maybe theories and philosophies and drills that they've gone through and they need to kind of be tailored the way that you want it to?
It's kind of interesting because you got some guys that have some playing experience, but nobody really has a significant amount of playing experience. You know what I mean? The reality is that mentally, I wouldn't say they're all experienced running backs as far as playing full seasons, right? I mean, AJ had played a little bit last year. Gabe coming back from an injury. Ramir didn't see a lot of action last year. AG did, but that's really the first time in his career that he's really spent, got that many reps and that many carries. So the reality is, a lot of these guys still have not, developed. You know what I mean? As far as the full development process. So that's the reality. I mean, and I'm treating them as if they're young players that we're starting from the bottom, building the foundation. That's the key. I want to make sure we get through spring and head into camp with a great foundation.
How are they responding to that?
I'm pretty intense, as you can tell, at practice, right? All of us, Coach Rule, we have a high standard of effort, what we what we expect from our guys, right? So, and me, I am pretty intense in practice. I know that. So the number one thing is showing how much we care about them, right, off the field as well. I think that was our priority this offseason, making sure that they understand we're here for their development. We care for their development, and the friendships will come naturally. But if they understand that we care about their well-being, then they'll take the hard coaching, right? Because it's really a learning process, right? To understand, like, why is Coach getting on me so hard on this deal, right? But when he knows that I care about his development, I think that's important. I hope I answered that correctly.
What's been your impression of Gabe so far?
Gabe's been doing great so far. He's a big back. He's running behind his pads right now. And again, just like the rest of the guys, I think he's still developing his eyes and still developing his arsenal, right? The whole running back menu, right? There's a lot of things that he's got to work on from a technique standpoint that we're really adamant about. And for us, the position's about the little things and making sure that we master the little things. The beauty of getting a chance to coach with Coach Rule at Carolina and being assistant running backs with Christian McCaffrey, I learned how to be a better coach because Christian was such a detailed player, right? And he really was very insane about the small details that maybe some people don't pay attention to. So we are really dialed into the little things, right? Alignments, hand placement, eyes, where they're supposed to be in each play, the progression of the play. Really just trying to challenge them to really get the whole deal, the whole package.
Is Ramir is he practicing in the slot as well as running back? How's that work with Ramir?
I don't want to speak for Coach Rule in Satterfield, but I think we have plans to put the ball in his hands in multiple positions because he has that ability. What people don't realize about Ramir is how tough he is. He's really good in protection. He's physical for a smaller back, and he runs with underneath his pads. And dominant contact's been our theme and what we're trying to instill in our backs. And when we make contact, we want to bring power with our pads, and we want to make sure that we're making a statement when we run the football. So, and Ramir, surprisingly for small backs, he brings that power when he runs the ball. But he has some finesse, right? He has the ability to line up in a slot and make guys miss in open space. So, to me, that kind of guy is very valuable and versatile.
You've known him for a long time.
That's right.
That way.
He has. I've actually, like you said, I have known him for a long time. He's got that. He was coached very hard in high school. I know his high school coach very well. He was coached hard in high school, and he's been that way since a freshman in high school. And really ironic that I'm coaching here now, but I'm just really excited with him. That's who he's been. That's kind of been his DNA his whole career for sure.
I know you have love for the fullback. Do you have some good options you see early on?
Yeah, I mean, if we had the scrimmage last week, we were able to get in 21 a little bit and run the football, which was fantastic for us to see. We got some guys that are willing to put their pads in there and knock guys off the spot and use physicality at the point of contact. That's the key for the fullback position, right? Understanding that, contact is going to happen, and you have to kind of take a boxer's mentality where you got to stay focused, right? Stay in tune to the block, using your technique, and not just get so riled up about the contact, right? So a lot of teaching still happening in that position, but we're getting places for sure.
Where are a few of the names there, or is it hard? I know Coach Satterfield likes to move like tight ends sometimes.
That's right.
So is it
For us, we got to be multiple, right? We got to be able to put guys in 12 and 21 and be able to play multiple positions and understand by formation and scheme where you line up, right? So really, everyone's got to be able to do it for sure.
What do you see out of Anthony Grant just the last 3 weeks?
Anthony Grant is, to me on the field, he's a warrior on the field. He plays, he loves football. I know that kid. He loves football. He loves running the football. I mean, he loves the game. And the reality is he's got a lot of ability where he's an explosive athlete. So the big thing for us right now is, again, kind of introducing the playbook, the new style of running, the new scheme, and preparing him for camp. You know what I mean? And the reality is, like, he's again, like the rest of the guys, have not had a significant amount of playing experience. Last year he ran for, I think, 990 yards, something like that. But that was his first year, right, doing that in his career, if I'm right? So he's still very, again, we just talked about the details, right? We have to teach the details. It's not just about how hard you can run at the position, right? You don't want, with running backs, you never really want to try to teach them how to run the football, right? You want to show them, like, where to run the football. Does that make sense? Like, they need to understand the philosophy of where the ball's supposed to insert, the timing, the blocking scheme, where their eyes are on the reads. So he's just like the rest of the guys. He's in that progression and development process right now.
Just the state of your mentality. Do you think that's something else kind of missing last year with a lot of them, or is it just
I can't comment on that. I don't really know, how they were coached or anything. I'm sure they did a great job with those guys. But from my perspective, our system and what our philosophy, we have to teach, right? We got to teach, and that's the place we're at right now. We're in the developmental process with them for sure.
You like to use that blaster in practice, don't you?
That's right.
The boys?
What's right? I mean, what's that?
Do the boys like it when you take them over there?
They do now. I think that's part of the teaching too, right? The mental part of it, the mentality part of it. For us, whenever we recruit or whenever we coach, we're looking for guys that with the right mentality. And I think the running back position starts with mentality. I'm always going to believe that way. I think that you have to run the ball. When you go to a store, right, and you buy Coca-Cola, you know exactly what that bottle is going to taste like. When you see our running backs, right, I want us to have a certain DNA that you know exactly what you're going to get when you see our guys play. And I think that's what Coach Rule and the whole team, I think that's kind of what I think his vision is as well. All the Nebraska football players, when we touch that field, I think he wants everyone and ourselves to know the brand.
There's been a lot of conversation about accountability. We work for a lot of coaches. I think one thing that seems unique about Rule is he really coaches the coaches during practice. What's that experience like when you have a head coach that just holds the coaches just as accountable as the players?
Well, I think it's full transparency, right? I think, whenever you're working for a coach like Coach Rule or a guy that's big on family, right? You got to mean it, right? There has to be a certain level of care there because we are intense as a staff. And the number one thing that my players and our players and Coach Rule's guys have to understand is when we're coaching hard, it's coming from a place of care, right? Because this is a real thing here. This is not, something that we just put on a sign, right? The culture is a process and how we have to develop it. And it starts right there with building a relationship with your room and making sure your guys understand that where your intensity is coming from is a place of care. That's important. And it goes that way with coaching, right? Like Coach Rule wants it right? And it's about getting the X and O's and the mentality correct and the effort correct. And it's nothing personal. It's nothing. Once we're off the field, it's over.
EJ came from UConn. Did you stay up watching basketball game?
I sure did. I'm just really impressed by Donovan. Had a chance to kind of get to meet him throughout the recruiting process last year. When we recruited another player there, Victor Rosa. We went to their high school teammates. So I got a chance to meet Donovan throughout the recruiting process there, and really impressed by that kid and that team and Coach Hurley, and really happy for them. I was rooting them from afar. Really excited to see UConn come out on top. They played well the whole tournament, so it's awesome. Love it.